Alright then, so this is the Wingsung 6359, and if you've heard a pen with numbers similar to that, you might be getting it confused with the Lamy 3059, or maybe just getting it confused with the Wingsung 3008, 3003. My point is, it's not a very good naming system if it's a system at all, but we're not here to talk about this pen, we're going to be talking about this pen. The Wingsung 6359, or as I came to figure out, a makeshift tattoo gun. Alright, so to make a long story short, it looks like I've put a fountain pen on my desk, it rolled over, stabbed me in the foot, and I think I've given myself a tattoo. That's not coming out! You know, as Bear Grylls would say, adapt to your situation to survive. So if you've ever needed a tattoo gun, I'm just saying. But let's not let that spoil the review. Let's get on with the review. So this is the Wingsung 6359. It's a fake Lamy Al-star, the metal version of the Lamy Safari, and while the Lamy Al-star can cost you upwards of 56 Australian dollars, this gem only costed me $2.80 off eBay, or about 1/20th of the price, and for 1/20th of the price, it does a pretty good job at being a fountain pen, just like all the other Wingsung pens that I've been getting recently. So let's jump into the review with the specs of the fountain pen. So capped, you're looking at a pen that's 139mm long. Uncapped, it's 129mm long. Posted, it's 175mm long. Capped, it's 22 grams, and uncapped, it is 10 grams. So the specs are pretty much the same as a proper Lamy Al-star. Considering that they're both aluminium pens, and this is a copy, I wouldn't expect them to be too far off. Now in terms of ergonomics, you should be able to write with this pen unposted. It's long enough, but if you do want to post it, and this pen does post securely, it does boost it up to a pretty long length. In terms of its weight, it should be heavy enough to be written with without it being posted. 10 grams is light, but I can certainly write with it unposted, though putting the cap on it pretty much doubles the weight. In fact, it more than doubles the weight, so it really does change how the pen feels. In terms of the grip, you're getting Lamy's two-faceted ergonomic grip. It's not my favourite type of grip, but since I'm testing these pens out now, I've really adapted to using them, and I've got to say, they've copied it well. It works pretty well. The grip section is clear see-through plastic. I always love that, to see how saturated the feed is. And one of the cool things is they have used glossy plastic, and usually glossy plastic becomes really clogged up with human slime and becomes all slippery, but this one has been pretty resistant to human slime, which is pretty good. If you look at the main body of the pen, you can see that it is cylindrical with two flat faces on each side. It's very similar to the Lamy Al-star, though one thing you can tell to differentiate them is that the sides are a lot crisper on the Lamy Al-star and a lot more rounded off on the Wingsung. You can probably tell that it's fake because it says Wingsung on the side. Now if you look at the bottom, you can see an ink window, so you can see the ink level of cartridges, and it works pretty well. One thing I will say about the holes here is you can really tell that Wingsung's manufacturing process isn't as refined or as high quality as Lamy's. And the reason being is, if you look on these flat faces, you can see that they are flat until it gets to the holes here, and at the holes the metal really does curve in. It's concave, and that's pretty much just showing that the metal has been stressed when they've obviously punched out the hole, which means it's bowed down the metal here. So it pretty much just means that the metal here is going to be pretty stressed. Does that make a big difference? Not really. But I just want to point that out. It just shows that even though it is a pretty good quality fake, because it's been manufactured pretty well, the manufacturing process just isn't as refined. I'm pretty sure Lamy would support the structure when they're pressing out the hole. Now if you take off the back of the pen, you will see that it comes with a fake Lamy style converter. The converter holds a little bit less than a mil of ink, and it should be able to hold about one to 2 days worth of ink for heavy writing, and if you don't write that much, it can hold at least 5 days worth of ink. Now if you look at the threads are made out of plastic, and they are pretty thick threads. They're pretty solid. I can apply quite a bit of pressure and they won't break, which is pretty good for a Chinese pen. Now if you look at the actual threads, you can see that they are plastic threads, and if you look at the threads on the barrel, they are metal threads. And one of the issues that I have found is if you just chuck the barrel on, sometimes you can misalign the threads, and because it is metal on plastic, you have the opportunity to pretty much strip the threads if you're not careful enough. I'm not the only person to say this, but if you're being a little bit careless, you can easily strip the threads and destroy them. So just take a little bit of care to put on the back of the pen. One last thing I'll say about this pen is it is anodized aluminium. This is the silver version, though you can get other colors. And if you've seen a review of the Lamy Al-star, you might have heard that Lamy Al-stars really do pick up scratches pretty easily. It's just because, you know, it's an aluminium pen, and by its nature, it will scratch pretty easily, and this pen is no exception. It's held up for the first 4 weeks pretty well, though I can see there are some dents coming in and some scratches. They're not too bad at the moment, but I'm pretty sure if I keep using this every day, the scratches will come in. That's not something, you know, to criticize the pen for. It's just something that you're going to get with the nature of an anodized aluminium pen. Okay then, let's talk about the nib of this fountain pen. So it uses a fake Lamy style nib and a fake Lamy style feed. And what the cool thing is that I figured out was you can take these Lamy style nibs off and swap them with other fake Lamy style nibs. This is the one on the Lamy towel. I can easily swap these out. So if you get a dud nib, you can easily swap it out. Another cool thing is you can buy a proper genuine Lamy nib from Lamy. They're about $10 to $15 depending on where you are, and you can pretty much put a proper Lamy nib on this, and you can get a proper Lamy Al-star for about 1/5 of the cost of a Lamy Al-star, which I think is pretty cool. In terms of this pen, this came with an extra fine, a 0.38 extra fine, and it's pretty good. I don't know how Wingsung have found a method to actually grind their nibs, with their nibs being actually good compared to the Jinhao pens that would be sort of crappy out of the box. This pen is pretty good. There is a little bit of feedback, though that's just something that you're going to get on an extra fine nib. It is pretty good, though one thing I will say is the extra fine nib on this pen is a little bit thicker than on the extra fine Wingsung 3003 with a fake pilot style nib, and it's also a little bit thicker than the Wingsung 3008, which should have a pretty much identical extra fine nib on it. So that's just one thing that I might want to point out. Though it's pretty fine, but it doesn't come anywhere as close to the pilot extra fine. In terms of ink flow, it's average for a fountain pen, but above average for an extra fine nib. Flow is good. In terms of reliability, its reliability is sort of on-off. Sometimes I can put this pen down for 5 minutes, come back, it will start to railroad. Other times I can put it down and it will start to work. Some days I can put it down for, you know, a day and a half, not use it, come back and it will work. So it's a little bit unpredictable, though if it does start to railroad, all I do is take the back off, prime it a little bit, maybe one turn, and it will work perfectly. In terms of flex, you never get much flex with these Lamy style nibs. You can press down and get a little bit of line variation, but then it's going to railroad and there's really no point. But in terms of fast writing, these nibs are pretty nice for fast writing. Alright then, welcome to the writing sample for the Wingsung 6359. This has an extra fine nib, 0.38 millimeters. I did that. The ink that I'm using is Noodler's black ink. Wonderful black ink. Absolutely love it. And the paper that I'm using is Clairefontaine. Really good paper, 90 grams per meter squared. Let's get a writing sample. Alright then, that's a lovely little quote from author Marcel Proust. I've read a few of his books. One that comes to mind was Violante and High Society. Really good read. I forget where this quote comes from. So, in that writing sample, really good pen. Very little feedback from the pen, but you can see not much line variation at all, but the ink was pretty consistent. In terms of the line that it puts down, ooh, it's starting to railroad a little bit, which is odd. So let me just prime the feed, hopefully that doesn't happen. Alright, so this is with no pressure, and I'll gradually build up pressure, and you can see even the slightest hint of pressure and it railroads. In terms of natural line variation, you're not going to get much at all, and obviously it will railroad like crazy if you try to put down any pressure to get line variation. But even if you go slowly, there's not much line variation to be had. In terms of wetness, above average for an extra fine nib, though it's just average for a fountain pen. In terms of reverse writing, yes, you can do reverse writing. It sort of works, but it's scratchy. For some reason, Chinese pens work pretty well in reverse writing. Now, in terms of how thick the lines are, this is the 6359. No pressure. A lot of pressure. And I'll just compare this to the Wing Sung 3008. Seems to me that the 3008 is a little bit thinner than the 6359. If you compare it to the fake Pilot Prera, the 3003, it's about the same thickness as this pen here. And if we compare it to a proper Pilot extra fine nib, without doubt, it is the thinnest one out there. Nothing gets close to this from Chinese manufacturers.